Good evening, Black people and all allies fighting for Black liberation, Black prosperity, and Black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and this is Prime. There was another mass shooting on Wednesday, this time leaving 9 people dead. Just one of the 230 plus mass shootings so far this year, according to a tally maintained by the New York Times. As the Times reported, the Gun Violence Archive, which defines a mass shooting as one with 4 or more people injured or killed, not including the perpetrator, counted more than 600 such shootings in 2020 compared to 417 in 2019. We need to recognize the trauma and stress that we as a society have endured because of COVID-19, the collapse of our social structures, the crippling of an economy, and the way the racial justice protests have unsettled some people. You add that to an already violent society, one saturated with guns and becoming even more saturated every day, and violence, including mass shootings, is a natural, horrific, inevitable outgrowth. I don't think we fully understood and appreciated the palliative of benefits of congregational opportunities for vulnerable communities, the way they provide an outlet and relief, a respite from the pain of oppression and despair. Society needs outlet valves, particularly at the bottom where the pressure is greatest, but COVID deprived us of that. And the violent isn't just shootings. The incivility trickles down. Many of the people we consider essential workers, those who kept our society functioning, are many of the same people who are on the receiving end of much of the violence. The nurses, the flight attendants, the bus drivers. This is all happening at the same time that we see an extraordinary surge in gun background checks and purchases. Indeed, one of the ironies of the Biden administration is that many people appear to have used stimulus checks to just buy more guns. As we begin to get back to normal, as some states plan to lift restrictions this summer, schools plan to reopen in the fall, and in-office desk jobs begin to beckon stay-at-home workers, we must remember that there are segments of society that will not so easily shake off the effects of this pandemic. Some parts of our society were already broken. Many of them we broke on purpose. Others we simply ignored as the injury lingered. The pandemic has compounded the problem, compounded the stress, compounded the trauma. What is needed is not necessarily even a congressional initiative. What is needed is a kitchen table initiative. This requires neighbor-to-neighbor outreach, communities communing. This requires some dish towel diplomacy, standing in a kitchen over a cup of coffee and confessing how hard this has been on us, and being seen, truly seen, by the person doing the hearing. You can read my full column on this at nytimes.com, but joining me now to discuss the lasting impacts of COVID on our society is Alicia Garza, principal of Black Futures Lab and co-founder of Black Lives Matter, and Rashad Robinson, the president of Color of Change. I am so happy that both of you are here for this particular segment, because I just think like so much of our energy, rightfully so, has been placed on fighting injustices in the system, but there's also another system operational that kind of leaves us vulnerable emotionally as kind of spiritual beings in the world, and those scars are adding up, and we are seeing this incredible outgrowth in all kinds of violence showing up in society. Rashad, how do we even acknowledge that that is happening, address it, and start to deal with it?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, Charles. You know, I guess what I think is, you know, this is still in the realm of policy, right? I worry that if we remove the sort of policy impacts behind sort of some of the things that you talked about, people actually don't have kitchen tables to sit around, nor with sort of so many policies which have prioritized corporate power, have created a gig economy a culture of really sort of tenuous relationships between workers and employers, an economy where those at the very top, the billionaires who were exploiting workers, could make tons of money during a global pandemic while fighting their workers' ability to organize. It meant that people actually don't have spaces to actually unwind, that there's these sort of economic impacts. And part of this is even how we as a society talk about COVID. You know, we talked about Black people are dying from COVID when Black people were being killed, not just by sort of a medical industry, but by a whole set of corporate and government inaction. We sometimes say, even in the sort of policy space, Black people are less likely to get a loan from the bank, when in fact banks are less likely to give loans to Black people. And I think what ends up happening is that we don't want to leave people thinking that we can solve our problems through charitable solutions to problems that are deeply structural. And so I don't disagree at all that we need to be in relationship. Part of the thing at Color of Change is we engage all of our organizing through this spirit of Black joy. And we do relational organizing, bringing people together all around the country. But we are no match for a disinformation culture in society that is fueled by Facebook and Twitter and big tech. And unless we actually change those policies, we actually can't get to the sort of knitting together of society. So I think it still has to live in the policy space, even while we have to acknowledge all the ways in which we have to relate, come together, which you so beautifully wrote about in your article.
But Alicia, don't we have to do both? Don't we have to have a foot in the long-term camp and a foot in the short-term camp? We've seen the George Floyd policing legislation caught up for over a year after he has been killed. It is still caught up. We still don't know when or if that will be resolved and whether or not it will have any teeth once it is resolved. But right now, there is an urgent demand and need for us some action. And I'm just saying, can we have both? Can we both fight the long-term battle for policy, but also exert whatever agency we have inside community without the policy and say, we just have to fix something right now because people are being shot right now?
You know, Charles, I'm so glad that we're here together having this conversation. It's May, which is National Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm glad that you're bringing attention to these issues of the ways in which trauma has reorganized our lives and the lack of tools and resources that we have as communities to be able to address that so that we can live to fight another day. And I think it's also important to have in mind what the root cause of that trauma is. We live in a society that is deeply unequal, and that is on purpose. It is actually by design. And I tend to think that sometimes the reason that this trauma is so ongoing, both from, the last year of the pandemic, being socially and physically isolated from the people that we love, but also, Charles, to be honest, we live in a society that is organized by rules that have been rigged against so many of our communities. And in order for us to unlock that trauma, we have to unrig the rules. We live in a society where our economy is organized in such a way where not only do we have to survive by selling ourselves on a market, but that selling of ourselves and our labor, it also changes our relationships with each other. It forces us and it encourages us to compete with each other rather than collaborate with one another. It also forces us to make choices about what it means for us to live in community. This is a lot of the reason, right, that in our communities, some of the conversations that we're having around the kitchen table is about the lack of care and empathy that we have for one another. You might think that that's an individual issue, but certainly, as Rashad said, that's a systemic issue. It's about having to survive in a society that is organized in such a way that it encourages us to replicate and replay our traumas on each other every single day. I also want to say this. When we're talking about what it means to recover in this moment, there is no way around changing the rules that have been rigged. And part of my trauma, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Charles, is that I'm tired of seeing the same stories play out over and over again in the same way. You know, San Jose, I live just about an hour away from San Jose, California. And the tragedy that happened today, where several people lost their lives, not just because of a shooter who was disgruntled, but certainly because we have come out of a period where people did not have the things that they needed, in a context where an administration turned its back on every single person who was vulnerable to this pandemic. But it's also in the context of there being a gun lobby that has a stranglehold on the people who are supposed to legislate solutions so that these things don't happen to us again. Similarly, with the case of George Floyd, where he said, "I can't breathe." In 2014, we saw that same thing happen here in New York with Eric Garner, and it could have been dealt with, and yet it was not. So one of the things that causes me deep trauma is the repetition of the same old mistakes over and over again, knowing that they're intentional, and then living in a country that literally has amnesia and says, well, if things are bad, it's kind of your fault. You're not working hard enough. You're not doing enough. So I think that's why what Rashad is saying is so important here, that we have to actually build the capacity to change the rules that have been rigged against us if we want to deal with that trauma. Because some of what that trauma is being induced by is the replication of, the staunch defending of rules that have been rigged against us that cause our communities misery and devastation, whether it be the rigged rules that organize this pandemic or whether it be the rigged rules that keep us from having the infrastructure in our communities to have the things that we need to live well.
So Rashad, I wanted you to answer this, discuss this. After we came out of the economic troubles of the late 80s, things got bad, right? And the crack epidemic blossomed. And 1992, we have our reaction to things getting bad was a policy change, but a policy change for the worse, right? We are now seeing another shock to the community, to the country. Things are getting bad. And what is on the horizon is not policies that are for the better necessarily, because you see already people starting to pull back on their promises about defunding police and reconsidering how, at first they were saying we'll think about this idea of reconsidering how we conceive the police. Now they're saying, wait a minute, not so fast because people are dying and things are violent. What is preventing us from getting the exact opposite slate of policies that are required to deal with this trauma?
Well, it's an underlying question of power that relates directly to narrative, to the stories we tell ourselves about what communities need, particularly Black communities need, to be safe and whole. And there is a deep sort of tendency of this country to try to control, exploit, and creates the kind of servitude space for Black communities, right? And so you saw that, you talked about sort of the rise of the crack epidemic and the demands that communities were making, sometimes for more law enforcement, but also for a whole lot more investments in mental health, in drug treatment, in education, a whole lot of things. All folks got was more police. And we saw that more police did actually not lead to sort of more prosperity, more opportunity, more forward motion. And then we see this now, right? As we are sort of working to not reimagine policing, but reimagine public safety. And what does it actually mean to have communities that are safe? Communities that actually have the things that they need, right? If the presence of police meant safety, then everyone would be spending all their time in the hood because that's where a lot of police are. But we know that communities that are deeply safe are communities that have mental health, they have schools, they have hospitals, they have parks, they have economic investment and opportunity. And those are the things that oftentimes in these moments are not the things that come to our communities. And so the question, right, for our movements, and the question for those that say they stand with our movements, is that will we keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results, or will we continue to build on the power to demand something different, because we will keep being in this vicious cycle of challenges and violence, and then people thinking that they can solve that by not investing in people, but investing in control. And investing in control never unlocks potential, never unlocks opportunity. And so this is just a thing that we have to fight against. But in it, we are fighting against this underlying narrative about Black people being the problem. If we can lean into Black people being the solution, then we will actually end up with much different public policy.
Alicia, I'm going to give you the last question here. I'm just wondering, do you believe that this surge in violence will some way be used against Black Lives Matter and the push for racial justice and the push for police accountability, and as we move into a political season with the midterms and then further out into another presidential cycle?
Well, certainly. I mean, we've seen these kinds of stories be spun over and over again, and they always get spun on the heels of change. And so, we have come out of an incredible last year. And by incredible, I mean chaotic. I mean unprecedented. I mean ways in which are the deep-seated infrastructure issues in our communities were laid bare in a way that they haven't been in many, many years. And so, yes, it makes sense, right, that in this moment, people are readjusting to being in communities. And I'm not sure that I fully buy this narrative that crime is increasing, certainly as there are increasing conversations about redirecting funding from militarized police forces into community services and community infrastructure. And so I do worry about that. But I will say, Charles, that one reason that I'm not that worried is because I think we've been here before and we know what the story has been. And what I see happening across the country at those kitchen tables that you're asking us to gather at is that people are gathering and they are expressing to one another the hurts and the pain and the rage of this last year and of the last 10 years, if we're all being honest. But I think in expressing that to one another, listening to each other and hearing each other, we are also saying we're not going to stand by while politicians and elected officials ignore the mandate that they were given from our communities. And so what I'm impressed by and what I'm inspired by is the notion that across the nation people are organizing. We are dipping and dodging these same old narratives that the party of no plan, no purpose, and no progress keeps putting in front of us. And they are working their very hardest, from trying to cancel culture by canceling critical race studies, to trying to spin a narrative, right, that police are what keep communities safe. And as Rashad said, if police kept communities safe with all of the money that we invest in policing, then we wouldn't have a public safety issue. But what we have here, frankly, is an issue of a lack of political will. And that's why we have to build power in our communities, both the power of story, but also the power of consequences when the people that we elect to represent us refuse to move our agenda forward.
Alicia and Rashad, thank you for bringing some understanding to us and to me about this issue that we're facing now in this country. I really appreciate you guys being here.